Madam President, Vice President, Council members, graduates, family and friends. First of all, may I echo the words of your President and extend my congratulations in your achievements in graduating today. It's absolutely right that I too did the associate exams and the fellowship exams back in the late 1970s. And I know how difficult it was at that time to combine working and studying. And I therefore have considerable admiration for all of you. A piece of advice I might extend to family members and friends who are here today: please don't follow the example of my father, who in his excitement at my graduation at becoming a solicitor, elected to be the person that took the photographs for the family. And I posed frequently for these photographs, believing that we would have something to look back on and reflect on, only to find he'd kept the lens on the camera. So please be sure that, I know we have digital cameras, please be sure that you don't repeat that. And just to end that story, some 10 to 12 years later, he was very seriously ill in hospital, but at that time, thankfully, recovering. And it was coming up to Christmas, and I thought that I would try to make up for this very lost event. So I decided as a Christmas present I would go and have a portrait photograph taken of myself in my regalia as a solicitor, and presented it to him on Christmas Day, and he made all the right noises at being very pleased to receive this. And the following day I went in to visit him and couldn't find my photograph anywhere. I'd left it on the wall. So I said to him, "Where's my photograph gone?" And he looked at me and said, "That bloody thing. I woke up in the middle of the night, thought I'd died, and thought it was a nun looking down on me." When I opened his wardrobe, it had been put into the bottom of his wardrobe and covered over. So perhaps I was doomed never to have a photograph of my graduation. But needless to say, I can tell you, he was as proud of me as I'm sure all your family and friends are, and so they should be. Can I just say again, just looking back at the route that I took, and I could tell you the route that I took in detail, but that would take some considerable time. But what I can say to you is that the one thing that I know that you sacrifice by not going to university and choosing to do the legal training in the way that you do is that you miss out on the social side. And when I was interviewed to be a recorder back in 1997, I got to the point where the panel of three, which consisted of one judge, the judge came to his point in questioning me. And I could see that he was becoming a little agitated, and at one point thought he was going to hold my application form up to the light, just as happens when you go into Tesco's and you present them with a £50 note. And I couldn't really work out what he was searching for, but then it all came to light. And what he said to me was, "You appear to have left off your university." And at that point I thought, well, I might as well get up and go, because that's obviously going to be the end of the line for me. So I very quietly and somewhat embarrassed said, actually, I didn't go to university. And he looked at me, and at first you could see he had surprise. There was then a momentary reflection, and to my surprise, he said, "My God, you did this the hard way." And I think actually that was probably the first time I'd reflected on what I'd done. And I thought, you know what, I did do it the hard way, because I did lock myself in my bedroom after I'd worked a jolly hard day at work, and I did forsake things like watching the Wimbledon final because I had an exam on the Monday. And I did actually have to give up an awful lot to study for my legal executive exams. And so I say to all of you that when I say congratulations, I really say that I understand exactly what you have achieved, and well done to all of you. The other thing that I really want to say is that we are at a crossroads, I believe, in the legal profession. You are a part of that legal profession, but please don't try to be competitive or combative with barristers and solicitors. In my view, we are as one. We are a legal profession, legal executives, solicitors, and barristers. Always remember the maxim, united we stand, divided we fall. We are facing at the moment, as I'm sure you heard from Lord Phillips yesterday, the most incredible cuts in legal aid, and access to justice is undoubtedly going to be denied. If there was ever a time for unity, integrity, and causing the public to appreciate the value that we extend to them, it's now. Don't let the government cause us to fight among ourselves to try to prove that we can provide something more cheaply. At the end of the day, value yourselves. You've entered a profession that you've taken years to achieve. Value yourself and others will value you. And I really stress that to all of you. I have crusaded for legal aid, and when I became Queen's Counsel, I chose to take the opportunity to use it as a platform to castigate the then Labour government. Sadly, I didn't achieve a great deal, but I have done my best, and I know that senior members of the judiciary are continuing to do theirs as we speak in the House of Commons. We're not going to overcome the bill that's going through. I think that there will be tweaks to it, but sadly I believe there will be a fallout, and I believe that reducing legal aid, in particular to family clients, is going to see an increase in the instance of domestic abuse and in child abuse. Because if families cannot separate because they cannot afford to do so, their problems are not going to go away. They are going to escalate. And specialising in that field as I have all of my career, I can promise you that domestic abuse usually arises because people are unhappy in their relationship. And I think that is the fallout we are going to see. And we are going to see short-term gain for long-term loss. And Mr. Clark, if you're listening to this, I will revisit you in 3 years' time and we will see what you have done. And I feel very strongly about that. Three years ago, I opened a pro bono surgery in Warlingham. I'm sure you're all saying, where's Warlingham? Well, it's near to Croydon, if I can put it that way. I linked up with my own GP, who is now a very good friend of mine, called Dr. Hinks, because coincidentally, he had a patient who was the same as my client. And between the two of us, we found we had a lot in common. I work from there on a Monday evening, and I advise people on a pro bono basis. There is undoubtedly a need for pro bono work, but again, and I believe in it passionately, there is also a need for paid work, and don't let's underestimate that either. Finally, what I would say to all of you is that I echo the need for social mobility and diversity in the profession. I came from a council flat in Peckham, where I lived for 21 years. I know what it's like to have to come up the hard way. I don't have necessarily all of the academic abilities and achievements of some of my counterparts who had the opportunity to go to Cambridge and Oxford. But I believe that I hopefully bring other qualities to the table. We need a profession and a judiciary that is socially mobile and is diverse. Your profession as legal executives is an absolute shining example of that, and so may it continue. Congratulations to all of you.